What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. You can find me on Twitter at ArtisticGamer28, and that's the one, the only, Scott Savage. You can find him on Twitter at Savage. Scott, what's happening, man?
Oh, the extended extra large intro. I like it.
Bring it.
Oh, we got some pretty interesting stuff today.
Dude, we got a wicked show today, but before we get started, make sure you head to InsideTheGame.ca. My review of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is live. I talk about all things Iki Island. Dude, that was, it's sick.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm going to have to check that after.
Absolutely. You can join us live over on twitch.tv/theofficial ITG, as well as YouTube. But if you can't join us live, hit us up later inside thegame.ca, where my review is, as well as podcast services and TV streaming networks around the globe. Scott, coming up on today's episode, Battlefield 2042 pulls inspiration from Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown.
Yeah.
Ooh. Nice. A Spider-Man exclusive is still coming to Marvel's Avengers on PlayStation this year, and Outriders have yet to make a profit despite selling well.
Oh man, that hurts.
It certainly does, dude. That was a little unexpected, I gotta be honest, because we'll get into that discussion. Dude, let's get going into your game. We're talking about Battlefield 2042. Datamine reveals Tarkov and Hunt Showdown-inspired Hazard Zone. Battlefield 2042 was revealed earlier this summer. DICE said the game will encompass 3 different experiences: the tried and true all-out warfare, modding suite and community browser Battlefield Portal, and a mysterious third mode called Hazard Zone. Well, Hazard Zone is the only experience yet to be detailed by DICE, but the recent Battlefield 2042 closed alpha may have given us a first indication of what it is. Legendary data miner Temporal, I think
that's right.
Right? Yeah. Who gained prominence during the time with Battlefield 5 for the quality of their work, returned to the scene to share what they learned about Hazard Zone from an in-game references. As some leaks hinted at, Hazard Zone appears to be taking inspiration from Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown, the persistent gear and the potential of permadeath and loss of equipment. The mode does not have its own map as previously thought. Instead, it takes place on modified versions of the game's existing maps, or some of them at any rate. Temporal found Hazard Zone variant of Orbital, the alpha map. So it stands to reason the others exist. The PvEVP mode inserts players into a little bird helicopter into a dangerous area where they're tasked of collecting intel and data drives and crashed satellites. The setup was actually hinted at in a recent Exodus in-game short film. Dude, how cool does this sound?
I like the sounds of this. The PvPvE, I think, is a really good setting for a game like Battlefield. I think it's going to work out really interestingly, and I like the kind of high risk, high reward. You have to survive. That's the main thing. So I think this will inspire a little bit of co-op, perhaps in little squads as you fight each other. It sounds to me quite like Scavengers, but I really enjoyed Scavengers, so this sounds great.
That's fair. See, I played Scavengers just briefly over on PC during a quick look at the game. And this one kind of reminds me of Vigor in a sense as well, right? You go around scavenging resources, looking for intel and satellites on this case. And dude, it's a PvEVP scenario. So yeah, they're pulling in elements that kind of really speak to me, where I'm not constantly going against other people, but we're going against AI at the same time. And we're out there scavenging for resources, or in this case, information. And dude, this sounds awesome. I was kind of looking at Battlefield from the outside going, this is going to be fun, but at the same time, I question how much is really going to hook me. And I think this mode here, Hazard Zone, could hook me in for a while. Yeah,
so I think this is it gives you a different option. Because to your point, too often in Battlefield, it's you poke your head above the trench and a team of a dozen snipers takes you right out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I tend to get pretty quickly frustrated by those kind of scenarios, right? So for me to jump into something a little bit different, and maybe we can roll with a team of 3 or 4 people depending on how they got it situated. Sounds like it should be small teams, not a big large scope like the all-out warfare mode, but they will be focused on something similar to just a couple guys, or maybe just yourself going out and then trying to survive and gather information. Dude, do you think they'll be solo, or do you think it's gonna be a team-based scenario?
I think it'll be a team-based but small squad, because they've had squad systems in Battlefield before. 4 or 8 people kind of can group up. So I think that'll be as large as it gets is 4. I'd be surprised if it was more than that. Then it's getting into Titanfall area, but we haven't seen anything like that come along in a while.
No, absolutely. So definitely pretty excited. Dude, the game's just around the corner now at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of sneaking up on me, and I'm going to have to make some space on the shooters I play.
Man, got to make space on the hard drive. Never mind. Talking about space, it's the hard drive space. Dude, every time I turn around, I'm deleting something to make room for something else. It's so frustrating. make it easy. Let me put in my 4 terabyte hard drive and let me go.
Yeah. No, that's unfortunate this time around. I have to look at between Call of Duty, I think is 200 gigabytes, and then Red Dead is another 100 something. Like, oh, sorry guys, when do you have to? When do you have to go?
One's gonna have to go. Okay, if you're gonna pick one, Scott, which one is gonna go?
Well, I think this one,
dude.
This one takes the shooter spot. So sorry, Cold War.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Dude, let's get into what's going on with Avengers right now. Spider-Man is still coming to Marvel's Avengers on PlayStation this year. War of Wakanda just released. Steve and I are on this one. So far, so good. Steve's had some technical difficulties, but we'll talk about that in our review later on this week. But Spider-Man, which is announced as a PlayStation exclusive character well before the game even came out. Since then, we've not seen the character nor have we actually had any good idea as to when it'll be playable. Earlier this year, though, developer Crystal Dynamics said Spider-Man will arrive after Black Panther. The developer reiterated these comments recently, confirming to Screen Rant that Spider-Man will be here before the end of the year. Senior game designer Scott Walters said, in terms of what we can say now, we've always scheduled and looked to bring Spider-Man out in 2021 for PlayStation owners. That is still on track, so we'll have more announcements later on this year. Cool. Sorry, Xbox people. That really sucks. Like, really sucks, man. I just can't believe that they obviously got paid something by PlayStation to create a storyline just for Spider-Man. We will cover it because when they announced the game, Scott, I went straight to PlayStation to buy it. Like that was my go-to. I went right to PlayStation. I'm not even going to bother picking it up on Xbox just because there's no reason, because Spider-Man is not coming to Xbox, and I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. So if I can only get it on one console, dude, it worked, right? It drove me to go to PlayStation.
No, Spider-Man is my favorite Avenger, and I wonder which Spider-Man they're going to go with. Is this going to be Miles Morales? Is this going to be Tom Holland? You know, I just call him Tom Holland at this point. Man, I can't wait for next console generation where I can finally get some Spider-Man.
Well, so that's the thing too. When we were talking about Spider-Man, what are they doing with Spider-Man? For me, I think what they're going to do, Scott, is create their own version. They've done that with every other hero so far. Not one of the Avengers have looked like what we've seen from the movies. We've had their outfits carry over now, with more recently to the game, but we have yet to see anybody look similar to what we know as the Avengers, or in this case, what will Spider-Man be? Are they going to work with Insomniac Games and pull their Spider-Man in? Or are they going to pull in Miles Morales? Probably not. I think they're going to take their own spin on it and have their own approach and put their own little touch on it to make it theirs. And that's what they've done so far. War of Wakanda is the same thing so far that I've been into it. I'm only a couple hours in, but at the same time, you know, Black Panther is Black Panther for Marvel's Avengers, the game, not for the Avengers movie or the Black Panther movie, right? We don't see Chad in there as a character. We have a whole different version of Black Panther. And I think it's really cool that they take their own spin, because now they can't be tied in and go, well, they should be doing this because that's how it is over here, right?
Yeah, or the voices are off. You know,
well, yeah.
That's just the reality of it. You can't afford all of these movie stars.
Man, could you imagine trying to pay for Iron Man, trying to pay for Captain Marvel, like Captain America, and all these? Dude, your budget would be right through the roof. They'd never even make the game then. No, I like their approach, taking that they're going to go do their own thing, and it's a less of a tie-in. So now we've kind of warmed up to the fact that it's no longer am I going to reference Iron Man that I've known in the past. This is Iron Man now. Well, it's Nolan North in this case over on the Marvel's Avengers game. And I've just gotten used to it, Scott, to be honest. I just turned the game on and, yep, there's Iron Man, right? Like, that's how that plays now. So it was definitely a little jarring when we first started the game, or even when they revealed the game. I was kind of like, whoa, that's not Iron Man, and that's not so-and-so, and that's not that's not Black Widow.
Iron Man is perhaps one of the most recognizable.
Absolutely. Right. And so, but there's no way they're going to pay for Junior to come over and voice that.
Yeah, no, it would just be too much.
Absolutely. That's why I said your budget would be millions upon millions of dollars. It's already high, I'm sure, but yeah, you need a couple hundred, maybe even $1 billion. Dude, you total all of those actors in there, What do you think their budget would be? Like, seriously.
Oh yeah, it has to be massive because, well, you know, the Marvel movies do well because they rake in $1 billion each, it seems.
Yep.
But that seems to indicate that the movies cost a lot more money to make too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even before it hits CG, I know there's a huge amount that's spent on visual effects, but
oh yeah, for sure. Scott, let's get into some unfortunate news for People Can Fly, as they suggest Outriders hasn't made a profit at all. How? Dude, studio has yet to receive royalties from Square Enix, despite publisher hailing launch as start of a next major franchise. Okay, well then now I'm confused. So let's get into the article. People Can Fly have revealed that its new multiplayer shooter Outriders failed to break even in its opening quarter. Wow. Dude, they even launched on Game Pass.
Yeah, I thought that would have given them some sort of a payout initially.
Gave them a huge boost in player base, right? So in both a note to investors and financial filing, the Polish developer reports that it has yet to receive a royalty payment from the game's publisher Square Enix. Royalties were only to be paid after all costs covered by the publisher had been recouped. According to the publishing agreement, any royalties generated by Outriders' profits were to be paid to People Can Fly within 45 days of the end of the calendar quarter in which it was released. Outriders launched on April 1st, meaning that the payment should have been made by Monday, August 16th at the latest. People Can Fly reports no such payment has been transferred into its accounts. Quote, this probably means that according to Square Enix, the game Outriders did not break even after the first quarter of sales. The studio wrote in a note to investors as translated by Google. Sebastian, president of People Can Fly's management board, estimates Outriders has sold between 2 to 3 million units, but the studio assumed that this was a result that would only ensure profitability. He suggests that this may be due to costs around distribution platforms. Really? Entities offering Outriders as an addition to their platforms, or other expenditures for Square Enix that People Can Fly is unaware of. He adds that he doesn't want to speculate and that the studio will analyze the situation further. Quote, despite the disappointing information, we believe that People Can Fly will receive the first royalties from the sales of Outriders this year. Dude, this is nuts. It's an odd revelation, given that Square Enix has publicly celebrated the launch of Outriders, revealing that it had reached 3.5 million players in the first month alone, Scott.
That sounds successful. Like, what? How much would it take?
I don't get it, right? This is not adequate to direct sales, as the title was also included on Xbox Game Pass from launch, which the publisher said has helped raise player numbers above expectations. Square Enix even said the launch put Outriders on track to become the company's next major franchise. GameIndustry.biz has reached out to Square Enix for a comment. We have yet to hear anything from them or on GameIndustry.biz, but People Can Fly is already working on another AAA project for Square Enix, as well as a partnership with Take-Two Interactive. Scott, let's dive into this one, dude, because this one is very interesting. 3.5 million players within the first month. Okay.
Yeah, that's no small number. That seems to be mildly successful at worst.
Exactly. So 3.5 is a decent number. That they didn't break even. So the minute they broke even, all profits then would go over to People Can Fly. People Can Fly haven't seen a dime. Nothing at all. But yet they're already in development for another AAA project with Square Enix and Take-Two Interactive. Man,
that puts a really awkward stress on the situation between them and Square Enix, because how do you trust that everything's going on above board properly? Is there some sort of issue happening within the company?
It makes you kind of question everything in that sense, right? Like, what is their expectations then? What does it take to break even? If you sell a game and you have a 3.5 million install base, and that's not even breaking even yet, like, that doesn't make any sense. We know over on Xbox Game Pass, they have something like 20 million users.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's no small feat. So to help them boost that elevation in numbers, they go over to Game Pass. Makes a lot of sense. You see an influx of player base. But People Can Fly didn't have any microtransactions in the game either, Scott. That was the other side of it, right? We didn't see any. You bought the game, you done the game. That was it. There's no extras. There's nothing else to pay for. There's no loot boxes. There's no nothing. So maybe now with their next project from Square Enix, we're going to see some loot boxes.
Yeah, a battle pass, at least something to get some income coming in there. I'm so surprised that hasn't broken even. And
absolutely,
it puts their series, their newly esteemed series, in jeopardy now, because how do you create under that situation? The People Can Fly needs to pay the bills, keep the lights on.
That's right. They got to be able to pay their employees, right? And if you can't do that, then how do you work on your next project? But apparently that's already in development. So I'm curious to see, Scott, is it Outriders 2? If it didn't do as well as they would hoped and haven't made a profit off it, would you make a sequel to that game in hopes that that would be the one that took off? Kind of like Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2 situation.
Yeah, that would make sense. At least they could have some sort of, and Game Pass gives you an install base. We know a lot of people checked it out, even if they didn't stick around for too long.
Sure.
So there was a huge kind of wave among players that enjoyed it. So I think it would be good to keep the name and go into a sequel. But do you use another publisher?
Yeah.
It just seems like a mess.
What if they take Outriders and put it under Take-Two Interactive instead?
Yeah, that may be the right way to go.
Maybe,
especially if they have some sort of relationship now, then that's hopeful.
It is, right? But it sounds like to me that they're working on something else, and that if they're going to make Outriders 2, it would already be aligned within the contract to do that for Square Enix, right?
But, yeah, that's very possible as well.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Scott, let's get into some other shady deals here. With an indie dev turns down $500,000 in a publishing deal, shines a light on exploitive contract practices. Solo indie developer Jake Friend, the creative force behind Wizard Adventure game Scrabdackle,
I like that title.
It's just like, what? Has tweeted an insightful thread about the exploitative nature of publisher contracts that are aimed at indie developers, and noted how some of the clauses contain practically insane breach of contract penalties. Jake Friend noted that they were offered the lucrative sum outright, and that could have helped with the release of the game in multiple languages, with a full QA testing on both PC and Nintendo Switch at the same time. But having raised 44,000 Canadian dollars from crowdfunding, the developer turned down the deal. Dude, that was it. In a lengthy tweet thread, the indie developer explained that their reasoning behind turning down the massive investment. Quote, I turned down a pretty big publishing contract today for about $500,000 in total investment, Jake began. They genuinely wanted to work with me, but couldn't see what was exploitative about the terms. I'm not under an NDA. Want to talk about it? Question mark. The next 23 tweets tell an interesting story that you don't often get to hear, thanks to the NDAs and embargoes placed on these kinds of deals. The most interesting of the bites of information included in the thread revealed that the contract allowed the publisher to keep the rights to the game's IP if a breach of contract was disclosed.
That seems a little... Right? Like, that's just outright shady right there.
Exactly. Luckily, the publisher, Luckily for the publisher, the description about what constitutes a breach of contract seemed quite ambiguous. Jake Friend never named the publisher in the question. If Jake Friend was found to be in breach of a contract, the unnamed publisher would also be given all rights to sell the game, resulting in Jake Friend losing his share of royalties. Dude, that's just shady. That is shady, man.
That sounds like absolute theft with a couple extra written sentences in there, you know? Like,
yeah.
That doesn't sit well with anybody in the industry, I'm sure, because
nope.
And I'm trying to apply this to another industry and try to make sense of it, but it makes less sense. Can you imagine if you and I do a musical performance, a band, we put together an album, and the publisher just takes it from us because we say the wrong words in our own advertisement or something, and then they could sell that forever? That seems so wrong.
Absolutely seems wrong. No, it's unfortunate that things like that even happen, right? Like he's a solo developer. That $500,000 could have gone a long way to help him send the game out, make sure it's completely polished, right? Have all that QA testing done and all that taken care of, without the how do I get to that point, right? How do I get all this necessary evils to get the game accomplished to a polished state and to be able to send out to people to check it out and play and enjoy. But then you get a deal like this, and if something goes wrong, dude, they just take your game from you? No, that's not cool.
Oh, no, that just seems wrong. And I've heard of other similar situations with the YouTubers and such where if they do the wrong thing, they lose sponsorship, YouTube will cut them out or whatever. And it's always, I don't know if it's ever worked well.
Probably not. Yeah, no, sometimes you're just better off to take your loss. And that's what he did. He just cut it loose and went with the $44,000 from the crowdfunding to develop his game. You're a solo, man, take that money and use it the best you can. Hopefully it's enough to get you through, and then your game sells, and then you'll be just fine, right? Fingers crossed, hopefully that works out for him. But Scott, dude, let's get into it. What game announcements and releases are out for today? I like the first one already.
Yes, I can tell. Hood, Outlaws, and Legends. Oh, I still have to get into that.
Oh, man, it's such a cool game.
The backlog is just hundreds of titles long at this point. But this is a co-op PvPvE heist game from Sumo Digital and Focus Home Interactive. Has announced that Season 1, called Samhain, will launch on September 2nd, featuring a wealth of new content. Samhain, I believe that's the Celtic name for Halloween.
Ah, okay.
The game's newest trailer offers a sneak peek at what's to come, including a winch mechanic rework, new maps for a recently introduced state heist PvE mode, new cosmetics through the first battle pass, and first free new post-launch outlaw, and that is Ida. Yeah. That sounds like quite a significant update, DLC of sort.
Dude, I've been waiting for the battle pass to come around because I honestly felt like there's a huge grind within the game, but I felt like there was for nothing, and almost in a sense, right? So now that a battle pass is going to be there, dude, when I purchased the game, I went straight to the top and bought the whole package. So I've got the next couple seasons for nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. I paid for it, but you know what I mean? So now I'm waiting for the battle pass. Yeah. But with people I want crossplay to work. Crossplay works with PC and Xbox, but I wanted to go from Xbox to PlayStation. Why doesn't that work? That's my biggest thing. When is that coming? But the Battle Pass is on its way, coming September 2nd. I can't wait for it. As you can
now, are you on PlayStation when you play this mostly?
No, I'm on Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm weighing my options here. I wish to get it on. If you're on PlayStation, you're on your own island, unfortunately.
No, Xbox, come over and join me. You can hang out with me, Nate, Corey, Adam. I think maybe even Steve's got it. So
that's a full team.
Yeah, we're ready to go. But what games are coming out today, man?
We have Recompile. That's coming to the PlayStation 5, Series X and S, and PC. That's a nice new gen title. I like that. Then there is Rims Racing, coming to PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox family consoles, Switch, and PC. Then The Veil, Shadow of the Crown. It comes to Xbox One and PC. And this is a standout for me. 12 minutes on the Xbox Series consoles and PC. We've had some curiosity about that one since it was revealed. I think that one's going to be pretty cool. Going to have to reserve judgment for that. Then we have Jessica coming to the Nintendo Switch today.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait. 12 minutes, Game Pass. I'm instantly going to be downloading that within minutes because our show is almost done. Because that's going to wrap up today's episode, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. As always, you can join us live over on twitch.tv/theofficialITG, as well as YouTube. If you can't join us live, hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services, and TV streaming networks around the globe. I'm Drew, that's Scott, and we'll see everybody tomorrow inside the game.